It has been a very dramatic week for Tolkien fans as we received the Vanity Fair article discussing in great details Amazon's diabolical plan for this show, and then a teaser trailer following up on that. As soon as the Vanity Fair article dropped, we began to see a polarization among the Tolkien fanbase. Of course, this has been brewing for quite some time, with some Tolkien fans saying that Amazon better not screw this up or else, while others have basically seal-clapped to every little thing they saw and heard regarding the show. It is very strange to me that this second group of quote-unquote fans of Tolkien are willing to simply stand up and smile and even cheer on the brutal evisceration of Tolkien's work. I hope they do understand that being fans of Tolkien, or even more simply just Lord of the Rings fans, does not mean you are obligated to like everything that is produced by Hollywood. In fact, it is quite the opposite of that. I think we can look at the words of Tolkien himself and how he feels about such things in a justifiably harsh letter he wrote to Forrest J. Ackerman in June 1958 in regards to a film treatment for Lord of the Rings. I would ask them to make an effort of imagination sufficient to understand the irritation, and on occasion the resentment, of an author who finds increasingly as he proceeds, his work treated as it would seem carelessly in general, in places recklessly, and with no evident signs of any appreciation of what it is all about. Tolkien clearly understood that there must be a respect of the source material and the author's vision, and when the Rings of Power showrunners say they wanted to come up with a novel that Tolkien never wrote, it is nothing but red flags to me. Tolkien also said this in his letter: "The canons of narrative in any medium cannot be wholly different, and the failure of poor films is often precisely in exaggeration and in the intrusion of unwarranted matter owing to not perceiving where the core of the original lies." The thing I do appreciate here is that Tolkien does recognize that some changes must be made to adapt a work for book to screen. He even later talks about how the Ents should be given greater focus than the Hornburg of Helm's Deep for the cinematic appeal. So he is reasonable in that regard, but it must all be warranted changes. So far, I have read or seen nothing from Amazon that is warranted. Amazon's changes break the lore, geography, and story of Middle-earth. I do earnestly hope that in the assignment of actual speeches to the characters, they will be represented as I have presented them, in style and sentiment. I should resent perversion of the characters, and do resent it, so far as it appears in this sketch, even more than the spoiling of the plot and scenery. Tolkien resents perversions of the characters. Amazon has decided to do just that with the likes of Galadriel and Elrond, and who knows who else, as well as adding their own completely made-up characters that will undoubtedly overshadow many of the already established characters of Tolkien, simply for the sake of pushing their own politics, messages, and themes. Peter Jackson has this to say on such a matter when making Lord of the Rings. "We made a promise to ourselves at the beginning of the process that we weren't going to put any of our own politics, our own messages, or our own themes into these movies. What we were trying to do was to analyze what was important to Tolkien and try to honor that. In a way, we were trying to make these films for him, not for ourselves." What a stark contrast to Amazon's insolent approach to the story. Amazon isn't the good guy here. They have outright told us that they are going to be doing what they want with this story, and will push their own modern-day hip and woke messages in this series. Which brings us to the touchiest topic, the racial diversity hires, spurred by a decision from the showrunners to break the lore of the origins of these races and make their completely made-up characters darker skin, with the beardless dwarf princess and Don Lemon the elf. Lindsay Weber, the executive producer, had this to say: "It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like. Tolkien is for everyone. His stories are about fictional races doing their best work when they leave the isolation of their cultures and come together." Yes, Tolkien is already for everyone, and it has been for a long time. We can all relate to these characters that aren't even human in many cases. Wizards, dwarves, hobbits, these are fictional races of people who aren't even human. In a way, you could say that this is even greater diversity, but it isn't good enough for the woke. They act like people of color simply cannot enjoy Lord of the Rings unless there are people who have the exact same skin tone as they do, which is insulting to say the least. I didn't need Will Smith, my favorite actor in my younger years, to be white for me to relate or appreciate his movies like I Am Legend and I, Robot. Furthermore, my favorite character in Lord of the Rings has always been Samwise Gamgee, and he's not even human. That is the beautiful thing about diversity that the woke want to distort for divisive purposes, is that you can only appreciate and relate to people who look exactly like you, when we all, like Samwise, have human character that is much more relatable and isn't just skin deep. Tolkien is for everyone already, without Amazon needing to quote-unquote fix Tolkien's world to make it look like New York City's diversity or something like that. The ridiculous thing about all of this is that Tolkien's world already does look like our world. You have Near-Harad, Far-Harad, and Rhûn, and more. But there is no interest by the woke producers in utilizing these lands to still be faithful to Tolkien's geography. There are some who will disagree with me, but I don't even mind the idea of changing certain traditionally white characters to black, such as James Bond. One of the people that I think would make an incredible James Bond is Idris Elba, and I'm not alone in this opinion. I think that Samuel L. Jackson has been a perfect Nick Fury for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This doesn't even mean that race swapping alone would be a deal breaker for me with a show about Middle-earth. The problem, though, is that we as fans have seen this play out time and time again with many franchises, where diversity and wokeness become the most important thing about the show, and it naturally suffers and gets rejected by the majority of fans because of it. Because the story, the lore, and faithfulness to the source material becomes secondary to the filmmakers. This is made obvious with them continuing to pretend that that is the core issue that fans have, the diversity bit, when the core issue that fans have is the unfaithfulness and failure to capture the vision of the source material. As Tolkien would say, this is unwarranted, a perversion of the characters and story, and no evident signs of any appreciation of what the story is all about. So the fellowship of fans has broken, and Amazon was the one who broke it, much like the ring was the cause of the breaking of the fellowship. Some are totally okay with the showrunners coming up with the novel the greatest author of the 20th century never wrote, while other fans are either approaching this with heavy caution or altogether see the writing on the wall and wish to have no part of this butchery of Tolkien's lore and works. As for me, I will say with Aragorn, there is always hope, but whether that hope lies in this particular production from Amazon, we will have to see. But nothing so far has made me optimistic about this show beyond some pretty visuals, but even visuals are not enough to carry the weight of a Tolkien story, as we learned from The Hobbit. Amazon has a long and hard road ahead of them to earn this true fan of Tolkien's trust, and I do not expect that they will based off of anything that I have seen. Going back to Tolkien's letter to Ackerman, one of his toughest comments was, "The last and most important pan of this has, and it is not too strong a word, simply been murdered." It's strange to think that Tolkien would himself be considered toxic by certain fan groups for his strong words, but he is simply telling the truth. From how things are looking currently, with Amazon's disregarding attitude to the story, time frame, characters, and lore, it appears that they plan to murder Tolkien's work. And it is a damn shame. And this, my friends, is why Tolkien fans, the true ones at least, must hold Amazon and anyone else adapting Tolkien's works accountable. The fellowship of the fandom may be broken for now, but perhaps it is not as broken as we think. Perhaps this is a time to simply see who will be faithful and loyal to Tolkien, while others are carried away by the orcs of Amazon, and maybe there will even be some who, like Boromir, will wake up and see that the true fans of Tolkien were right all along. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Unlike fan sites like theonering.net, I will not shame you if you are excited for it or if you hate it. Everyone's opinion is welcome here. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, leave a like, and have a great day.